Have you ever found yourself replaying a conversation in your head over and over, thinking about what you should have said? Maybe you caught a tone, a look, or a comment that didn't sit right, and now your mind's been chewing on it for days. You want to clear the air, set the record straight, make sure they understand. But here's the thing, not every situation deserves your energy. Not every misunderstanding needs your explanation. Sometimes silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. In today's episode of Healing with August Wild, we're going to talk about unlearning the need to address everything. Because if you're constantly defending yourself, you're never actually living for yourself. This episode is for anyone who's tired of feeling like the peacemaker, the explainer, the one who always has to fix something. This episode is for the person who realized that protecting their peace sometimes means walking away, not proving a point. Since 2023, me personally, I've become more confrontational, especially in my music. Things really reached a boiling point when I dropped my album, Birthday Boy Volume 30, on February 2nd, 2025. I had a response track on there called Validation, and that song was me standing my ground. And ever since then, I've been in this mode where everything feels like it needs to be addressed. Not just one person, but every little thing that I hear behind the scenes. And it has me thinking lately, how sustainable is that life? Can I really respond to everything? Should I even respond to everything? What actually needs a response? And what just needs to be released? I realized sometimes my peace depends on knowing that difference.
It sounds like this everything needs to be addressed mindset didn't just start in 2023, it evolved into that. When you think back, where do you feel that came from? Was it growing up needing to defend yourself, or was it more about trying to be understood?
First of all, I don't know why you're rushing through your question. That sounds like you're speaking very, very quickly there. But to answer your question, where I personally think this comes from is my need to feel heard, or I should say my desire to be heard. I don't care about being right. I could care less about being wrong. I guess that's implied, but all I care about is my opinion is being heard. And that stems from when I was young. No matter what I said, it was like, hey, we're going to cut you off. You're not finishing your sentence. Okay, we're all done here. The conversation's over. And that bothered me. And I would bottle that up for way too long. And bottling it up turned into, okay, well, if they're not going to hear me out, then what's the point of even giving my real voice? What's the point of giving my real opinion? What's the point of giving my real thoughts? And I can't do that today. I can't bite my tongue, because if I don't say it out loud, I'm going to write it. I'm going to put it in a story. I'm going to put it in the content. I'm going to put it in the music. I have no way of silencing my thoughts. Not silent secrets that other people tell me, just my personal opinion, or I guess my feelings is the better way to put that. Do you see what I'm saying?
When you finally started using your voice again, whether that was through music, writing, or content, did it feel freeing, or did it start to feel like pressure? Once people started listening, you had to keep proving that your voice mattered?
I would say that it felt free. And frankly, I could care less if people think my voice matters. I know that my voice matters. It might not be the most popular voice. It might not be something that people want to listen to every day, but I know that my voice matters. And the reason I say that is because my voice is not unique. It just happens to be the loudest one amongst a lot of people who feel how I feel. There are people that I know who feel what I feel, and they'll praise me behind the scenes saying, I wish I could speak like you speak, the same way I said last episode. But not in the sense of the words I use, but in the sense of how freely I express myself. So no, that's not really what moves me.
I'm curious, when your honesty comes out through your art and people start reacting to it, whether it's support or criticism, does it ever start to blur the line between expression and reaction?
Hmm.
Do you ever catch yourself creating or speaking from a place of proving a point instead of just saying your truth?
I like that. I appreciate that question. I was about to tell you that I don't catch myself trying to prove a point. But when I talk about confrontation, I do find myself thinking, hey, nobody's put you in your place before. Therefore, I will take it upon myself to do so. Again, the same way I said last episode. So what do I mean by that? There are people who, like, for whatever reason, feel as if they can speak on the way that I dress. There are people who, for whatever reason, feel like they can subtly disrespect me because they know they can't directly disrespect me. They can subtly disrespect me, and in my brain, I say, oh, you're plagued with a sickness. Your sickness being your ego, your insecurities. And I'm down to humble you. So I guess, in a way, that is like proving a point, because like who am I to bring that upon myself? Who am I to say it's your ego and not my ego? But no, to answer your question, no, I mostly go for just saying the truth, but like I never lie.
That's interesting, but here's what I'm wondering. When you humble someone in your art or your response, does it actually make you feel better after? Or does it just feel
Yeah.
like a temporary win? Like you cleared your conscience for the moment but didn't really get peace?
Whether I was successful or not, and success varies depending on like what you're going for. So in my opinion, I feel like I'm successful, but to answer your question, yes, it does make me feel better. Whether they got the message or not, because the message very rarely is received in the sense of, man, you said this thing about me, therefore I need to humble myself. The message is received in the sense of, August sees he sees through my bullshit, therefore I don't want to associate myself with him anymore. That's all I care about when it comes to like the response. I can care less about, does everybody agree with me? No. I just need you to know that I don't stand for or support what it is that you do and the way that you act, because what you do and the way you act, frankly, is toxic, and the world has enough toxic. And look at where our toxic idols end up. They end up ostracized. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
It's almost like you see confrontation as a filter, a way to separate the real from the fake. But here's the tension I hear underneath that.
Mm-hmm.
If confrontation is how you draw those boundaries, does it ever start to feel like your peace depends on proving that you see through people?
Mm-hmm.
Like if no one gives you that moment to call it out, to make it known, do you ever feel restless? Or maybe even unsafe staying quiet?
I don't put myself in environments where I have to bite my tongue. Like I remove myself from spaces where I feel like I have to bite my tongue. I don't want to do business with people I have to bite my tongue around. I don't want to be friends with people I have to bite my tongue around. I've told my wife before, I would not have married her if I felt like I had to bite my tongue. I not only do I not, it's not about enjoying it. I feel trapped. Like I feel stuck. Like keep in mind, I don't necessarily jump right into the most aggressive form of confrontation. Sometimes people say things by mistake, or they don't even realize what they said was disrespectful. So, like, confrontation can be something as simple as, I disagree with what you just said, right? It could be something as simple as a one-on-one private conversation. Hey, I don't like what you said. Me personally, I don't like to text things, and a phone call, like, it kind of helps, but like you gotta look someone in the eyes when you say what you're about to say. That's the way I look at things. I have to look at someone in the eyes when I say what I'm about to say. And it's not like on some machismo shit. It's just like, let's understand each other and let's set this boundary. But often what I found is that people will avoid me. And because I'm biting my tongue, I have to put it in the music. People will avoid me. They're like, okay, well, I don't want to deal with his emotions. He's being sensitive. And so therefore it's like, okay, I don't want to text you. I don't want to call you. I want to talk to you in person, but you don't want to see me in person. Cool. All right. So I'm just going to put it in the music, because I don't like the feeling of not speaking. I don't like the feeling of being silenced.
Let me ask this before we move to the next segment. Do you think part of why this mindset grew stronger as you got older, especially after Birthday Boy Volume 30, is because music became the one space where you could no longer be interrupted?
Well, that was it. Oh, okay. The reason it got stronger the older the reason it gets stronger the older I get is because I know what it's like on the opposite end of what I do now. Right? So what I mean by that is when I was younger, I couldn't express my voice. And I still felt that anger that I feel today. When I was young, I would feel angry, and it carried over to who I like a little bit of modern day. So the difference between when I was younger and who I am now is I'm married to somebody who let me know that it's okay to be myself and I have a safe space to be heard. That's the reason it got stronger. And as our relationship grows, the stronger I get. Even independently of our relationship, I feel like it's now a muscle in my brain that I can work out. My wife, ironically, like, she's a physical therapist, and like the analogy that I give is like she's training me to get back on my feet, to get my confidence back up. Confidence that was always there, but just I hadn't stretched in a while, if that makes sense. And now I can be on my own again. So the answer to your question is the relationship I have with my wife is what makes me feel like I can get that it gets stronger the older I get.
So now that we've unpacked where that everything needs to be addressed, mindset comes from your upbringing, your art, your safety, your healing, let's move into segment 3. Where do we see this elsewhere? You ready to move into that next segment?
Let's go ahead and do it.
Let's start with social media. It feels like people can't let anything slide online. Someone posts something vague, and instantly everyone assumes it's about them. Then it spirals into subtweets, story posts, or public clarifications. Do you think social media has made people addicted to addressing everything publicly instead of sitting with it privately first?
I think that a lot of people feel what I feel when it comes to biting their tongue, and that is more so of what I think the issue is as opposed to social media. Social media just became the outlet in which it was heard, if that makes sense. So for example, if you have a problem with somebody and they won't talk to you, or they won't answer your texts or your phone calls, your FaceTimes, you might feel like, man, I really need to get this thought out. And the healthy way would probably be like journaling or talk to a therapist or talk to a trusted friend. However, you go on social media and you post something vague, like an indirect subtweet or whatever, and you're hoping that it catches the attention of either the person you're talking about or someone who wants to pry more information out of you. And I mean, you could say that about what I do, right? I'm making this content to drive conversation, but at this point, it's no longer a conversation with myself. So I don't think necessarily that social media sparked that. I think that it just became a place where people feel heard now. And I think what's sad about what's going on today is people feel more comfortable talking to the ethos of social media, the void of social media, than they do to a friend or to a family member or to a therapist. Probably because friends don't even pick up friends don't even pick up the phone for each other anymore. So why would they talk to anyone outside of social media?
Let's move to another space where this shows up. Relationships. A lot of couples today treat communication like a full-time job. Every small misstep gets dissected. Every feeling needs to be processed in real time.
Kind of me.
Do you think that over-addressing can actually make relationships more fragile? Can talking about everything sometimes ruin what patience and time might have healed on their own?
It's funny because I think I'm that kind of person, but the reason being is you might think you have a small leak, but if you don't tend to the leak, it will become much worse over time. Over time, you could have what could have been $100 fix turn into a $2,000 fix. The thing about feelings is you never know which of them are like a cut and which of them are like a deep wound that you have to address. So, I can certainly understand if you've been in a relationship with somebody and you know everything about them, then yes, consistently pestering about things that you already have spoke about, things that you've already addressed before, that could ruin what patience would heal on its own. But if you guys are introducing new things into your life, new situations constantly, then no, I don't think that over communicating is an issue. To me, there is no such thing as over communicating at that point.
All right, let's shift into another area, the music industry.
Oh, me.
We
Okay.
see artists calling each other out all the time, sometimes directly, sometimes through subs or lyrics.
Kinda.
Fans eat it up, but behind the scenes, it can destroy relationships or take focus away from the art. Do you think diss culture and response records have made it harder for artists to let things go? Or do you feel like confrontation in music still serves a necessary purpose?
I think where we've put our attention currency is what is making it harder for artists to let things go. So I'll give you an example. Drake versus Kendrick Lamar 2024. We all cared about their music individually for decades. Most people who aren't even that in tune with hip hop couldn't even tell you that there was a feud between them. They just enjoyed the music. And now, 2025, when one of them drops, we automatically think about the other, or at least that's how it's perceived on social media. So people start pitting them against each other. And if I'm putting myself in either of their shoes, I can understand how you would get so frustrated that you just say something at a certain point. You say, man, I just got to address this. I got to squash this, or I got to put it to bed. I got to put it to rest. I think that's really what's motivating people. Maybe not Drake and Kendrick in particular, but I think a lot of artists say, dude, everyone keeps talking about this thing. I got to say something about it now. We're adults, right? We can make our own decisions. But with that being said, if your job relies on attention and retention, then I can certainly see how response records, if that's what everyone's asking for, or diss tracks, if that's what everyone's asking for, like, I can see how you do that because no one cares about the emotional stuff anymore. Give me the response. Give me the diss track. Then yes, I can see how it makes it harder for artists to let things go because they're always trapped in that environment, in that cycle. But with that being said, I do think confrontation serves a purpose. Music is about emotions, and like, what is more emotional than confrontation, whether it's confrontation within yourself or another person or another situation?
Let's hit one last cultural example before we move on to the mindset shift.
Okay.
I'm thinking about friendships. In a lot of modern friendships, people avoid tough conversations completely, ghosting instead of addressing things, or pretending everything's cool while resentment builds. Why do you think friendships today struggle more with honest confrontation than romantic relationships do?
I think the reason for that is everyone knows deep down, if you confront something with somebody, that means you have to confront something within yourself. And most people are not down to confront something within themselves, or like, look, I'll give you a perfect scenario. I shouldn't say analogy, but I'll give you an analogy anyway. That's just who I am. Let's say you have an employee at one of your branches in Southern California that's not doing their job. Now, you've been operating in Northern California and you haven't visited Southern California in a long time. And you know that. You know that if you call them out for their performance, they're going to fire back with, well, you're never here. You never come see us. Most people aren't willing to face that fire back. I'm going to say that again. Most people aren't ready to face their own critique. And that's why people aren't honest in friendships anymore. Because if they were honest, they would speak about what bothered them. But that means they have to be open to hearing what is bothering somebody else. So, to summarize everything I'm saying, if you're not ready to confront yourself, that's probably why it's showing up in your friendships.
So now that we've unpacked how this everything needs to be addressed, mindset shows up in your life and in the culture around us, let's move into segment 4. What's the better mindset? You ready for me to start guiding that next part?
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and get into it.
1. The window of regulation test from emotional intelligence research. When we're emotionally charged, heart rate up, jaw tight, adrenaline kicking, the logical part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, literally shuts down to make space for instinct.
Okay.
That means when we speak in that moment, we're not actually communicating, we're offloading emotion.
Mm,
Research shows that waiting just 20 minutes to 2 hours before addressing something allows the body to return to a regulated state.
I like
Most
that.
people find that by then, about 60–70% of what they wanted to say no longer feels necessary. So the test is simple. Am I speaking to solve it, or am I speaking to soothe myself?
Okay.
If it's the latter, it's usually too early to talk. Do you think this kind of pause feels realistic for you? Or would waiting like that feel unnatural and maybe even suppressive, given how much you value expression?
I want to tell you that this feels realistic, but I'm gonna give you an excuse, mainly because I want to work through it. I often find that people are pressing me in high pressure environments. So for example, I don't really find myself in the space of like I'm one-on-one with somebody and they said something that disrespected me or I feel disrespected by. It's always I'm in a group of people and we're about to go and perform, whether it's in a studio or on a stage or a soccer match or at work, whatever the case may be. We're in a group of people. Someone disrespects me right then and there. We're like gonna start something in 10 minutes. I don't have 20 minutes to 2 hours to calm down. So yes, in an ideal situation, what you just said not only makes a lot of sense, but it's very applicable to my life. But I don't typically, me personally, I don't typically find myself in those scenarios.
Let's move on to the next point, too. The impact versus intent filter
Okay.
from cognitive behavioral therapy. When something hits us wrong, the brain immediately treats it as threat before it ever processes intent.
Okay.
That's how we're wired, especially if we've had past experiences of being disrespected or dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
But research in CBT and communication theory shows that pausing to ask a simple question, did they mean to hurt me, or did it just land that way, reduces misinterpretations and long-term resentment by nearly 40%. The logic is, not every slight deserves confrontation, only
Okay.
the ones where intent and impact both point to harm. If it's unintentional, it may just need clarification, not confrontation.
Got it.
Do you think that filter, separating they meant to hurt me from that just didn't sit right with me, is something you could apply, or does it feel like it risks letting people slide when they should still be checked?
Not only do I think that this can work, I actually do apply this. I'm not perfect. I slip. The issue I have always comes later where I find out they did intend to hurt me. They did intend to disrespect me. So in person, they'll say something and apologize. So it's like, oh, okay, it's not that big of a deal. And it's nothing ever crazy where someone's like calling me out of my name or anything like that. It's like, it's subtle. You would think it's just jokes. And then they apologize for it right after or say, oh, it's just a joke, man, relax. But then later on, you hear from other people, different people who don't even know each other, the same story about, oh yeah, this person said that about you. And it's the same joke they said to your face. So you say, oh, okay, they did intend to hurt me. So to answer your question, yes, I can 100% do this and I already do apply it. However, it becomes difficult later on when people show that they're actually trying to hurt you. And they're mainly trying to hurt you to protect themselves. That's my personal opinion. So with that being said, it's not personal. But at the end of the day, if someone's coming at you, then they're coming at you and you're going to feel some type of way about it.
3. The energy exchange principle from social psychology. Researchers studying reciprocity found that communication is most productive when both people are investing equal emotional energy. When one side gives effort, clarifying, empathizing, reflecting, and the other responds with avoidance or manipulation, the conversation drains your nervous system instead of restoring it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why many therapists say, silence isn't weakness when it's a boundary.
Right.
You conserve energy by removing access instead of chasing understanding. It's the difference between control and closure.
Got it.
Given how you've described your world, where people sometimes apologize, then show their true intentions later, do you think shifting toward energy-based boundaries like simply cutting off access, fits who you are? Or would
Okay.
that feel like you're abandoning your principle of honesty and directness?
Um, I think very recently in my life, I have practiced this art of cutting off access when people go too far with the jokes or the disrespect to the point where they don't even know that they're doing it. And they go that far because I allowed them to do so. I was too open, I was too inviting, and yeah, cutting off access, it works a lot, and I don't feel like I'm biting my tongue. When I cut off access, it's because like at a certain point there was just nothing else to say that I haven't already said. So I like that method a lot, and recently I've been practicing it.
Let's move to the final one. 4. The 5-year test from long-term well-being research.
Okay.
This idea comes from behavioral science and Stoic philosophy. When you face something irritating or disrespectful, ask, will this matter to my peace, reputation, or purpose 5 years from now?
Mm.
If the answer is no, research shows the healthiest response is detachment, because long-term well-being is built on conserving attention, not collecting confrontations. It's about legacy management, not moment management. Do you think that test, filtering by long-term relevance, fits where you are now as both August Wilde and as a person?
Mm.
Or do you feel like your art still requires you to address things in real time to stay authentic?
This is something that recently it's come to my attention I need to think about more often. I wasn't thinking about it enough. I wasn't thinking about, am I going to like this response? Am I going to like my song Validation 5 months, 5 years from now? Honestly, I am. But I haven't been putting a lot of thought into it. I do think about my legacy when it comes to me as a person and the actions that I take, but with my music per se, not necessarily. So this is something that I can 100% apply to my life, and I appreciate that you put it that way because, yeah, a lot of these things are, you got to plan these things out 5 years in advance. Is this going to ruin, what were the things that you said? You said reputation, purpose, and peace. If it's going to affect those things in 5 years, you got to address it. If not, let it go. So I appreciate that. Now I want to move on to the challenge for the week. This week, I want to challenge you to practice selective peace. The next time you see something that bothers you, the next time something bothers you in general, before you react, before you post, before you vent, ask yourself 3 questions. 1, is this worth my energy or just my emotion? 2, will this matter to my peace next month or my purpose next year? And 3, am I addressing this to grow or just to be right? And if you can't answer grow to that last question, don't say it, don't post it, don't even write it. Let silence do the talking. Because sometimes the most powerful response is the one that protects your future and not your pride. Thank you for listening to another episode of Healing with August Wilde. I am August Wilde. I'm a hip hop artist from California. I'm on a mission to learn and grow with my audience. If you like this episode, or even if you didn't like it, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, and please consider subscribing to my channel. You can find this episode and other episodes of Healing with August Wilde every other Monday. I'll see you in 2 weeks.